Hello to the commercial streams, setting up for Coder Radio 538. Mr. Dominic is en route. And we thought we'd cover a little extra news that won't make it into Coder today, but Microsoft has some exciting news. Their Copilot is ready to go, and they're going to be announcing that. They're also beginning an epic legal battle against Google. They're taking on Google in the fight from the U.S. government, from the Department of Justice, and Microsoft is a witness for the Department of Justice, and Satya Nadella was on stage.
Anurag, what do you make of this? There is choice, it's just that consumers are just using one browser, right?
Yeah, but I, to be honest, when I read the news, I was laughing because only a few months ago, Satya went on, with a massive offense with the browser wars, with his, OpenAI and the AI for Bing. And Google's market cap, took quite a bit of loss in those weeks to follow. And now he's saying that these guys have an advantage even in AI. So it's pretty amusing to me.
I mean, he went on to say that Google could extend their search dominance into AI, Anurag. And that hasn't been the feeling on the day-to-day discussion. I mean, as we've said time and time again, this timing of this trial is interesting, given the run for its money Google search is getting from generative AI.
Yeah, and one of the things I talk to a lot of investors about is, when you look at something like an Apple has Apple Maps, and it's pretty crappy, and I've never used it. I still go out and open up an app that has Google Maps in it to do.
It's actually gotten a lot better. I mean, I'm not saying it's as good, but maybe Homeboy here ought to give it a go instead of saying something like this on Bloomberg television.
I've never used it. I still go out and open up an app that has Google Maps in it to do any navigation. Now, if for whatever reason, if I don't have Google default search on my browser, on my phone, I may be forced to download an app and that I can use search that way. At the end of the day, Google search is far better than anything else that's out there. And I think that's what Google is trying to make a case here.
He's trying to say, although he did it very poorly, that Google's trying to make the case that it is their superior product that is leading to their market share, not anti-monopolistic behavior. Boy, he sure did a crap job of explaining that, though, didn't he? Microsoft does have some good news, though. Poor down and out Microsoft. They do have a new product they want you to get really excited about. This is the one that lives up to the AI hype, and it's going to make you more productive.
Right.
Hello, Mr. Dominic. Copilot. Microsoft just announced a new Copilot.
Microsoft is going to begin selling its new AI tool called Copilot for $30 a month starting in November. But the question is, will this product live up to the AI hype? Steve Kovac joins us right now with more. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, well, Becky, all year everyone's asking, can anyone besides NVIDIA generate meeting sales?
So here's what Microsoft's saying is that it's going to make you a more productive office worker, is that it is sort of their pitch, is that it could be a breakthrough for business productivity, is what Microsoft is saying. It's a breakthrough. Ooh. I know you love a good breakthrough. Well,
I like a nice breakthrough. Tracing.
Also hot and spicy today, Sam Bankman-Fried's trial starts. They're doing jury selection. And turns out one of the questions they have for the jury is, do you have any experience professionally with somebody who has ADHD and has trouble making eye contact and is fidgety and, has odd personality quirks? And they're basically saying, like, he's a little off because he has ADHD. And one of the questions for the jury is that going to be a problem for you? Is it his weird, slimy, can't make eye contact with you because he's constantly lying personality, is that going to be a problem for you?
Okay, you know what, though? There's real science behind that, not necessarily the ADHD thing.
Oh no, I think he's probably on the spectrum.
Right. Well, no, it's like what like the guy gets accused of being a thug, right? Like a drug dealer or whatever, or street gang. What's the first thing the lawyer does? Get him to get a haircut covering in tattoos, buy a blue suit.
Yeah, right.
Make him look like the boy next door who just made a mistake. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've been diagnosed with ADHD, and I suppose if I was in some sort of crazy financial ass scheme, and my lawyer said I could use it to my advantage, I would.
I've never been diagnosed. I do self-flagellate like the albino dude in the Da Vinci Code every time I see one of these assholes make a ton of money on crypto, and I somehow missed it when I could have bought Bitcoin for like $10.
How do you think I feel? Fuck.
Yeah, you were like in it too. You should have.
I've always hated all of the shitcoin gambling that like FTX. I've always hated that aspect of it. So I was just turned off by it always.
I know, but the shit coins let
I know. I could have been. I should have been more cynical, and I could have made a ton of money on some dog coin or something.
We need to open the Jupiter hedge fund. That's it.
All right, I'm going to use the ladies' room soups quick.
Yep, going.
And then we'll get going. We got a big our show, which is great. We got a big our show. So,
right. Chat room, my chat room.
Yeah, we don't have a lot. We're not having much chat room action today. I just started the commercial stream, so if you guys aren't in there yet, coder.show/matrix. We got to title this thing.
Oh, chat room, my chat room. Does anybody know on a self-hosted GitLab server, if I could see a history of pulls? I can see commits, but not pulls. And I really want to see that. Oh, cool. Cool tack off. I guess I can't.
All right.
Okay, let's.
I think we're pod ready.
We're pod ready, and I'm going to be live SSHing. Let's do it.
Oh wait, no, I didn't. Hold on. I'm a bad person. I didn't refill my water. I'll be right back. Super quick.
He's a bad person. The smooth gel. Oops. Okay. Let's do this the other way. Ubuntu. How do I view?
Get it out of here.
Your boy has cancer.
Who does?
RMS.
Well, that sucks ass.
Yeah. He looks crazy. He's got no beard and no hair. It's totally, you wouldn't even know it's him. Although he's still wearing the same outfit and he still has the same belly, so you can, from like the neck down, he's recognizable. Hello, Rapid Mustang. Hello, Tack and Golden Dragon.
What is oh my god, my Unix foo sucks today. Oh wait, no, I spelled ethereal wrong. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Get your bang suggestors ready, gentlemen, because we need a title. In fact, I'll kick it off. Mine's too long. But
oh boy.
Maybe somebody could riff on my big old title. Okay.
Well, this is so much information, it's not useful.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all right. Why are so many things? I am ready when you are, by the way.
Okay. I don't mind if you wanted to. Okay.
No, I'm good.
Well, then we're going to do it. We're going to effing do it. Hitting record over here. Hello, future Drew. Nice to be with you. Mr. Dominic, jump in at 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
All right. Okay, chat room, please bang, suggest, and
Stay a while and listen.
because it is coder time. Mm-hmm. This is Coder Radio, episode 538 for October 3rd, 2023. Hey friend, welcome back to Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and the business of software development and the world of technology. My name is Chris, and hopefully fully caffeinated, it's our host, Mr. Dominic. Hello, Mike.
I am brewed up to a beautiful, beautiful darkish brown with just a little bit of a silky smooth top.
Man, you see, you can't wax on about a Red Bull like that.
No, you can't.
No, there's no ritual to the Red Bull. There's no nuance to the Red Bull. You got sugar Red Bull and you got sugar-free Red Bull, right? That's about as much nuance as it gets. It's been a minute, Mr. Dominic, since we've done a little coffee radio. So to get us in the mood, I went a little further than I normally do, and I hired a band, and I brought them in, and I got them all mic'd. We got ourselves a piano jazz band for a little coffee radio talk here on the show.
Ooh. So, we have not done coffee radio in a while. And my coffee routine has changed. I still occasionally like to burn myself with the AeroPress. It's just, I know people swear by it. It is a device that I am not capable of using in an efficient and non-harmful way, much like Max and any kind of adult beverage.
Have you actually burned yourself with the AeroPress? I've gotten
burned
close.
The shit out of myself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not like you go to the hospital, but I can never get it. Or, sometimes I err on like trying to not burn myself and that I don't put enough grounds in. I want to love it and I want to be like an AeroPress guy, but the amount of wasted coffee and frankly, calamine lotion I have to use it's too high.
You're happy with the taste, but not the process.
I'm happy with the taste, not the wounds. Fair enough, yeah. So I have switched. Of course, I have a Keurig machine like a heathen that I give to, wayward homeless lepers that I see on the street. I have a Breville Barista Express.
Oh my
which
goodness.
Makes espresso and can froth your milk in a way you would. Frankly, we would be demonetized on YouTube if I showed you 1/900 frothed milk.
Now, owning a Breville machine, a kitchen Breville device myself, these are serious devices. They don't mess around with the Brevilles.
I spent quite a lot of time watching YouTube videos on how to calibrate one's Breville because it turns out, if the Keurig is on the like easy mode side of the spectrum, the Breville is not. And there are many options and strong opinions out there. So I'm curious, which Breville do you have?
Create a third wave of specialty coffee at home from bean to espresso in less than a minute. Ours is like a toaster oven, or it's not a coffee device. It's not one of their coffee machines.
Yes. So I have taken to, of course, espresso with just a luxurious, moderate slice of lemon on the rim.
Really?
With my little espresso Taza cups, my little plates. Oh yes, tiny spoons. I honestly, every morning, I'm basically in Naples. And I'm just like, in my coat robe, of course, with my espresso. Va bene, come se va, ciao. Part of that was French, but that's okay. I even have a locally sourced kind of coffee that I'm using.
Oh.
Because they sell espresso beans, Bones Coffee, out of somewhere in Swampland, Florida. It is glorious. They have flavored coffee for the guests and the wife and the kid. Not the kids, although why not? But their espresso beans are that dark roast, but not that Starbucks hates you and wants you to poop dark. That is all of Starbucks coffee.
Yeah.
It's just glorious. You can do it as an espresso. I've been using, so this is my uber hipsterness. I have a kettle, one of the British style tea kettles, the electric ones. So I boil the water in the tea kettle. I make the cup of espresso in a coffee cup, and I put the hot water in to make a cafe americano. Very luxurious.
You're telling me this Breville can't make hot water for you?
I have yet to discover that functionality, and I'm very afraid to touch any of the buttons other than I have it preset every morning, man. I don't touch this thing. I tried the froth milk and almost like steamed my face off.
That's amazing. Okay. I have been thinking with, the weather changing and whatnot, that I should get back into the coffee habit because the cold, sugar-free energy drinks, just not doing it for me anymore. I feel like I've reached that as far as it's going to go. Rapid Mustang in the chat room says he has the same machine and he also came from the AeroPress.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe you're onto something.
Yeah, so the AeroPress seems like such a good idea. And, I know that I have like the OG AeroPress, and to their credit, it cracked once and they replaced it, no charge. I feel like there has to be like a safer, unless this is user error, which fine, maybe it is. It has a distinct taste, I feel. I don't know if everybody else feels that way, but yeah. So my default, if people come over, other than just perked pot of coffee, if I'm feeling lazy, because that's so you're at the auto mechanics weight room, right? Perked coffee, please. A nice French press. You get a good flavor. It's not a ton of money. They're very cheap, and you can get them in different sizes depending on your needs. But it's one of those like things that seems fancy to people who don't know it, but it's actually super easy and super affordable. So yeah, it's good to show off. You got a date or whatever, mother-in-laws,
family coming over. Yeah. It is. Yeah. That is a nice idea. I want some tips on something between the AeroPress and something between the Breville, because I have, like I think you just did, I kind of start with something. I'm like, okay, I like this idea. Let's get the best implementation possible. Yep. But I don't know if I want to go right to that yet. There you go. Little coffee radio for you.
There you go.
Enjoy.
And let us know your favorite coffees and coffee making paraphernalia.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, we got a bit of feedback based on a boost that was quite positive. The boost was quite positive on Python's packaging system. Well, a longtime listener, one-time writer wrote into the show, and they kind of disagreed with the take that Python is, the booster thought Python. I'll just start over. We have an email into the show this week that took issue with some feedback we got via a boost calling Python packaging a disaster compared to Java. Well, they think that the booster conveniently omitted how much of a clown show the Log4j fiasco was, and kind of forgot to really appreciate just some of the... I'm pre-reading. And the author disagreed that Java's packaging system is a disaster, quote unquote. But really, the problem is all the different packaging solutions have varying levels of suckage, and there's not really a universal solution that exists. But he says one important thing is no packaging system is going to give you 100% an ironclad guarantee. It could pinpoint all the places where the vulnerable Log4j classes were tucked in, and a transitive dependency of... Oh, this is horrible. I'm trying to summarize this. I'm sorry. This is like a 6-page email I'm trying to summarize.
You want me to... I read it this morning. You want me to basically...
All right. Okay, here. Let me set you up so Drew can do a clean cut.
Yep.
Now, we got an email into the show that was really saying the snake is no escape. There is packaging problems everywhere, and it was specifically replying to a boost that was pretty negative on the Python packaging system. Really was kind of negative on the whole thing. And I know you got a chance to read it this morning.
Yeah, it's a fair point, right? All these packaging systems kind of suck. I made some comments about the Rails system, the Ruby Gem system, rather. I kind of like the way Python handles the virtual environments. With that said, that's also not the only option in Python. There are other solutions that you can use. Off the top of my head, I think one's called Poetry. That might be wrong. Rust has Cargo, and none of them are perfect, right? If you've ever used Linux, you'll find that packaging is a hot topic. So I would say the key is to, and I think the writer kind of made this point. They all have their quirks, and if you're going to be a professional in specific languages, you just have to go with the flow. The one thing I will say in favor of Venn, right, virtual environment for Python, is I've heard all the criticisms. It's fine, but it is the de facto default, right? If you look at like anybody's like myblog.com Python tutorial, they're almost certainly using that instead of one of the newer esoteric solutions. So yeah, different strokes for different folks. I am sorry, writer, that I condensed your 6-page email. It's just a little long to read on the air, but
it's a good point. I mean, he raises a good point that they all do kind of suck, and you make a fair point about Linux packaging. It's kind of all over the place, and it's something that's really grinded my gears the last few years. It's just not a fully solved problem. And I could sit here and go on about Nix and why I think it's so great, but the reality is that the market is deployed with a lot of traditional package management systems. Now, I think one thing Python has going for it, Mike, and you kind of implied this, is if you run into trouble, there's a huge community of support there. So there's a lot of resources. You will run into trouble, but there's also a lot of resources.
Well, that's the yeah.
No, go ahead. I thought you were done. You can finish.
Yeah, that's the trade-off you make, right? There might be advantages to some of the newer, kind of less used solutions, but you're alone, right?
Oh, we got a new sponsor. Now, the official ad read's already done, but for those of you that are watching live, Go to alderon.games/coder because they have multiple open positions over there right now, including QA positions if you're kind of getting started. They are also deploying on the Linux platform, so if you've got some specialties there, you might fill out an application even though they don't necessarily have a spot for that in their list right now. But they do have a couple of Unreal developer positions, a Node.js developer, a back-end PHP developer, and a game security engineer position is open. They're remote. They're well compensated. And the guy that runs the place, Matt, he's a longtime listener of the Coder program. So he's been around and listening forever. Now he's doing his own independent gaming studio, and he wants to hire a few Coder Radio listeners. So alderon.games/coder, and we'll have a link in the notes, too. And you can always listen to the edited version for the official read. Now, you brought up a good question this week in our private chat. And that is and you asked, how does your first major professional programming language, like you really, the one you cut your teeth on, or maybe the technology platform you use, how does that long-term continue to impact your work, your career choices, all those sort of things, like the overall picture? And I think, you probably have a few thoughts on this one. So you brought this up and I said, yes, let's talk about this in the show. let's save it for the show.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I think it's certainly true that those original habits you pick up, kind of styles, can follow you, right? Not that you follow them religiously, but certainly I find myself, from my real deep Objective-C days, doing things like writing method names that are basically a sentence, right? Preferring named parameters over just using positional ones when possible. Just the general style of how Cocoa implements, or I should say structures, an API or a framework, I tend to still follow. I actually had a pretty funny interaction this morning, ironically doing a contract work for Alderon, where I'm working with a bunch of C++ Unreal developers and I'm doing Objective-C, and it turns out that just like the Unreal C++ conventions are different from the Apple Objective-C ones. And so we're trying to figure out, okay, so what do we do here? Right? I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's just like almost like the languages are compatible, right? Like literally there's Objective-C++ unless you just commingle them. But the, I guess, culture of the different style, right, of like Unreal C++ is wildly different to even like Apple C++.
Of course.
So what do you mean, of course?
Yeah. Why am I just not shocked? I'm just, for some reason.
I mean, like part of it is like it builds character, right? Like I feel like people who started in, better languages like Objective-C are like people who've been doing, yoga and meditation for 20 years. It just builds a spiritual toughness in you that you can't find anywhere else, really. And that's why you're all wrong about Objective-C.
Right.
And thank you for attending my TED Talk.
Yes. All right. Well, good conclusion. I mean, do you feel like this early Objective-C influence does sort of, is not a disadvantage, but it sort of sets you, I don't know, down a different path initially? Like, do you think it is sort of in some ways a disadvantage, maybe for lack of a better term, now in 2023?
I don't, actually. I think it's quite the opposite, because Objective-C is really, or was at the time, right, a relatively small language where you didn't have a lot of fancy whiz-bang stuff, especially when I started with it, that you had to kind of know how things work, like traditional C blocks. You had to be able to just, Lego up, Voltron up, very simple tools that the language gives you to make complex solutions, right? Now, I mean, I look at things like TypeScript today, which is, like a language that even the kids are learning. But compared to what Objective-C was at the time, putting the amount of just tools they have in that toolbox, it's wild to me, right? The amount of patterns they can do that are like built in, not just like patterns you do. I guess maybe the big ding against my Objective-C love would be, at the time, it was manual memory management. But I kind of think that's a good thing to know, right? To know how to do reference counting. And yeah, like what is an auto release pool? What is a strong reference versus a weak reference, right? What is, a point, like pointers? You had to know pointers, right?
Here's where I'm coming from, because maybe I guess you're sort of fortunate then that it was Objective-C, because like I have a scenario where when I was very early in like actually taking technology courses, it was heavily influenced by a corporation that had an incentive to create a bunch of workers that were specialized in their platform. And as a young student, I didn't even realize it was happening because the institution had the deals with Microsoft. And so they were shaping the courseware. Everything, even the way networking was described, was from a Microsoft standpoint. And then when I got out into the real world, I realized, man, there's like these NetWare servers out here, and there's these Unix boxes and these System 390s that I'm working with. And yeah, there's Windows as well, but it's not a Microsoft world. And it felt to me like I'd kind of been hoodwinked. I'd been sold propaganda through schooling.
Well,
and I felt like it wasn't like it was useful because I totally I was certified in the Microsoft system. I understood how it worked well, and that was a useful skill set. At the same time, it didn't serve me in what I ended up ultimately doing. And I felt like, and that's a scenario where the starting point wasn't necessarily a really great one. Like you could start maybe like you were saying TypeScript. Maybe you start at a place where you don't learn some of those fundamentals. I had to go back and kind of learn the industry version of networking, not the NetBEUI focused Wins version of a Windows network.
I don't even know what the hell that is. Jesus.
The Windows Internet Naming Service was this internal LAN resolution service so you could resolve NetBEUI names over IP.
Oh, God.
See, stuff I just didn't need to learn. But that,
right. That does remind me, though, right? We talk about boot camps a lot. That is, I think, a very fair primary criticism I have of boot camps, that they're just teaching. I mean, I remember what was it, like 3-4 years ago? All the boot camps were like Node.js or Ruby on Rails, right? And then they just like rotate through the fads, right? They're all React now. A lot of them are out of business now, but many of them are still React.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, that's great. And I would never begrudge somebody going to a boot camp, especially, to get that first job. But you have to understand, just like, there's an episode of me being pissed off about Swift, right? Your cheese is going to get moved, and you have to be a developer who can work with multiple languages and frameworks, maybe not simultaneously, but certainly, if you've been doing it for a long time, things cycle every 5 years, right? And I've already gone through 2 of those cycles, and I can tell you, I could never have imagined in the beginning doing some of the projects I've done successfully. Like, it never would have occurred to me that, just asynchronous Python would be something that I do a lot of.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
It never would have occurred to me that I would be doing C++ Unreal Engine work, mixing it in with Objective-C. I mean, that's maybe closer to what I started with. I never saw React, or I don't do React. I never saw Angular coming, right? Who back then would have thought of those things? Then these boot camps, sometimes they're just bad, but even in the success cases, you need to know, what, maybe I am an old man, because I keep harping back to I'm joking obviously about saying you have Objective-C is the best, but like you would get the same type of fundamental education if you just did C or C++ or really any. I mean, Rust will BDSM you into goddamn borrow checking hell. So. Although Rust is weird, right? It's different than kind of the C family languages, but
inappropriate.
Don't. The crab people are very kinky with their borrow checking. Maybe it is bad, right, for these kids to come out and like they go to university and all they're learning is TypeScript and Python. Maybe that is a disservice. I kind of used to be more, but when I talk it out, kind of arguing against myself, it does seem like there's going to come a point where they're going to want to do something lower level, as in closer to the hardware, and they're going to be SOL, right? Or they're going to have to learn a lot on the fly.
Well, you might remember that I worked on the inside of 2 large online training platforms, and they offered all kinds of course material. But by far and away, the most popular stuff were the cloud certifications. So you'd learn how to do something on the AWS platform, using their tools and their nomenclature. And then you get certified in that, and then you go get a job. And this was a thing during the boom. This is why these companies were making good money for two primary use cases that I observed. One, somebody wants to skill up and specifically get a certain types of, cert path. And then they tend to go, during the boom, they would just get that cert path and then get a job. It was incredible. Or the other use case I saw was, and this was probably maybe the majority, businesses were buying bulk subscriptions to train up their staff to the next platform. But even there, it was the cloud stuff that was really the most popular. And people weren't taking TCP/IP basics. They weren't taking C++ fundamentals. They were taking, how to build and write applications on AWS and deploy. And then you get a certification, you go get a job, and your entire, and I know there's probably, please boost in, there's probably somebody listening right now, this is their job, their entire job is orchestrating AWS, and they don't ever really have to touch any of the fundamentals underneath that. And these are what these platforms are, making, we're making good money doing. That's all abstract.
It's all abstract. I mean, there is a very good argument for chasing the hotness, right? And I do that all the time. But you have to understand, I think, kind of the fundamental concepts, so you don't get. I mean, we have a real world example of this, right? All the poor ActionScript folks, right? The Adobe Flash, Adobe Air, which I realize we probably have people young enough who have no idea what the hell I'm talking about right now. It's a technology that Steve Jobs effectively shot in the back of the head with the iPhone. But they had to scramble, right? And you know what the side effect of that was? A lot of those very design-oriented, front-end kind of folks ended up just going into what we used to call HTML5, which is now just the web, right? And we got just a stupid amount of JavaScript frameworks, but some of them are good. And what would you say, Chris? That 4-year period when Flash just died, the CSS tooling, the JavaScript tooling just skyrocketed, I feel.
Yeah, it felt like every week we could come on the air and talk about a new one.
Right, or the browser vendors would build in some whiz-bang animation that used to be a pain in the butt to do in JavaScript. And it's now like a two flag CSS call, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nope.
Get the hell out of here.
Not that one. Tailscale.com/code, or go over there, support the show and get 100 devices for free, which is a ludicrous amount of machines. It's because they talk directly to each other, so it's not a big cost to Tailscale. They got a pretty brilliant architecture over there, and you can support the show and get it for free for up to 100 devices at tailscale.com/coder. Well, it is tech battle season. There is multiple legal battles going down, and maybe one of the biggest is that Google is undergoing an antitrust, and maybe the biggest is Google's antitrust trial that has just kicked off. Satya Nadella was a witness on behalf of the DOJ. He was testifying against Microsoft, and also Eddie Q showed up and talked about their arrangement with Google on how it works with the iPhone. And Nadella essentially said that we sunk, well, he didn't say it like this, but this is what he said. If they spent about $100 billion trying to make Bing a thing, and they still haven't been able to crack Google's search monopoly, and their argument is that Google has paid unbelievable sums of money to Apple and Firefox and others to ensure that Google is the default search, and that has prevented Bing from pulling ahead. And Satya was up there kind of giving it full barrels.
Satya's not mad. You're mad, Chris.
Yeah, right.
So there's a lot of weirdness in this trial, right? I think we should just kind of preface. The judge has, I think, kind of extraordinarily allowed a level of secrecy that usually doesn't happen in this kind of litigation. Which I gotta say, it must suck to be The Verge right now, trying to get leaks and stuff. You don't have the treasure trove of documents like you did in the Microsoft one. But it's an interesting theory that the government is pushing. And it's weird how the bedfellows, I feel like, have kind of changed now, where Microsoft and Apple tend to be more buddy-buddy, right? Less competitive with each other. And Google and Apple tend to go after each other. And now, Apple's straight up bear hugging Google and saying, no, they're great.
Eddie Q said that, quote, it's always been thought it was the best, and that That's why they haven't switched it. That's why they continue to take those billions from Google. And Eddie Q claimed there is no valid alternative for iPhone users,
which is just savage with the Bing people sitting in the room, right?
Yeah. The last 60 minutes of when Satya was testifying, the last 60 minutes went to Google's lawyer, and he just spent that hour pounding him, including showing that they did internal polling with Microsoft staff, and it showed that their mobile story, quote, sucks. He went on about how the fact that Bing is, not as good in different areas, and he got Satya to agree that, yeah, it's not necessarily competitive everywhere, but Satya's point is that, that we just don't have a shot here. And the Google lawyer essentially said to him, it's impossible. And the Google lawyer essentially said to him that, no, it's just that Bing sucks. It's their fault Bing hasn't pulled ahead, not Google's, and that it's not Google's fault that they haven't built a better product. So that's Google's defense. So you got Apple backing that up, saying there's no clear alternative, no valid alternative is what Eddie Q said. And you got Satya, who's blown $100 billion, well, Microsoft has, trying to get Bing, to the number one spot. Yeah, he's definitely got a dog in this hunt, and he's up there railing on him. It's interesting bedfellows all of a sudden with this case.
Well, it's also strange that I think it was Satya himself, like he got asked the question and he just volunteers, which normally is something you don't do in a court proceeding, right? Volunteer information that also AI, they're going to use this to screw us in AI.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I got to give them credit. Like they're just like, not only are we going to smack you in court, Google, or we're going to try, we're here for the next fight, right? It was so clear that Microsoft's whole raison d'etre for even being there, other than being subpoenaed, or is they want to prevent Google from using its search monopoly, if you believe it's a monopoly, to becoming, I guess, the AI. So I guess their bet is search is going to be
the funnel to AI.
The funnel to AI.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of searching and getting web pages, maybe half the page will be the Bing bot says, bada bing, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and they both are working on integrated AI responses when you search, and I hate both of their attempts so far. It's a funny argument because what Satya is really arguing is not just about current damages, but he's warning that if we don't take preemptive action, there could be future monopolistic damages that Google is able to take advantage of. And maybe he's right. I mean, you integrate it into Google Docs and Gmail and Google Search and Google Maps and YouTube, and you're going to have probably the largest AI platform. And then the other thing that they're probably feeling pretty insecure about is Microsoft's AI play is now all open AI. They kind of killed their internal projects, much to the chagrin of some of their internal staff, and they went all in on open AI, which is, it's a shop they own 49% of or something like that, but it's not their native tech. Where what Google's working on is their own native tech. So that might be a point of insecurity as well. I don't like this kind of using the court system to compete, because I really do think Google is a monopoly, but I think it is because it is the better search. And ironically, I think that's begun to shift. Just as now, finally, this antitrust battle is going down, Google's market share has slid a little bit thanks to the Bing AI stuff. And the market cap is also slid. We remember what a botch when they announced Bard at first it was. It really hit Google hard, and it showed us that Google is actually vulnerable in the market. And their search results are also sucking more than ever, I have to say, because I'm using DuckDuck and Bing and Google, all three of them now, to get what I need. And Goog's is still the best, but it's declining. So it's so ironic that this moment has arrived when the market realities have just actually begun to shift, and Google has we've seen internal leaks showing that it's crapping its pants over this. A little late on the timing on this one.
Well, it's also weird how are we entering a phase in the industry where the big arena of competition is actually the regulatory arena and the courts? Oh,
I think we're here. Yeah, I mean that's why.
You think this?
That's why Sam, both Bankman-Fried and Altman went immediately to the regulations. You know, Mark Zuckerberg just again called for more regulations last week. You know, oh yeah, I think we're there. And let's not forget that the FTC is going after Amazon right now. It sounds like there's more going down between the EU and Apple after the whole USB-C thing just went down. And Apple is now requiring, per the Beijing government, to have developers register and license themselves before their apps can be published in the App Store. All of this is just going down in the last couple of weeks. Amazon's getting sued by the government. China's cracking down on the App Store in China. And the EU has more things they want. They, quote, want Apple to open up its gates to competitors, end quote. We are looking at a time where these massive nation-sized tech companies are essentially going to legal war with some of the biggest governments in the world. And it's multiple companies at once. And it's just wild to watch. It's there's so much happening all at once. It's actually kind of hard to track it all. I'm putting links in the notes to help people.
It's strange too, because I feel like the USB-C thing, well, you know, everybody made a big deal. It was inevitable, right? It probably would have just been next year. But the idea of Apple opening the App Store, I feel like that's they're gonna fight that. It's just too much money.
Yeah, it is. It is the long-term revenue plan for the iPhone.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the market size, but in some small markets, I would absolutely expect them to just remove the App Store before they allow that.
Oh no, I think the market I'm thinking of is the EU, right? I'm pretty sure, like we already saw it, right? I don't know if you saw the news today. Apple caved on some of China's App Store requests. Regarding
the registration and the licensing,
Yep. You just mentioned that. But I think when it comes to like adding third-party app stores or allowing charging outside of the App Store, they're going to go to the mattresses on that.
I think you're probably right. Yeah, this is going to be one to watch. This is all, especially the Google antitrust case. It had such massive ramifications for Microsoft, and it took so long to play out. And Microsoft was fundamentally altered and neutered for a while as a company. And now, ironically, we see them participating in the exact same proceedings more than a decade later against another competitor of theirs, which is, it's a special kind of irony, I think. There's a special taste to that one. I want to thank the Coder QA crew out there who is signing up at coderqa.co to support the show directly. You also get an ad-free version of the show, and you get the Coderlies. We'll probably have another one coming up in a little bit, maybe a holiday-themed one, I'm thinking. And I'm very pleased, and ironically so, to see that it's been a while, our first legitimate JB acquisition interest email, where there is an active partner with a law firm that is interested in buying JB. I used to get a few of these a year, but then the market crashed. And I feel like this is good. This is a good sign almost. Is it tempting? Not really. I mean, a tiny bit just because money's really tight right now and Daddy needs a new roof. But only a tiny bit tempting.
Wait, is it like a crypto betting company for fantasy football?
Oh, God, I hope.
I hope it's L football.
I will admit, I did email them back and ask them who the interested party is.
It's one of the, I keep, and I'm not going to say the name, I keep getting a private equity firm over in Orlando. It's just like desperate to buy me out. And I don't know why.
I know. I used to get a couple of these at least, a year, maybe a few a year. And I haven't gotten any this year. This is the first one. It's exciting in a way. It's like, somebody's interested in me again. I've been noticed.
Isn't it like you're like the girl who got like two guys to ask her out for prom? Isn't it sweet?
But you know what? We're not doing that. Thank you to our members, so that way we can keep the show going, even during the ad winter or when we get tempting emails. And, of course, thank you to everybody who also supports each production by boosting in with a new podcast app or by getting Albie at getalbie.com and then coming to the podcast index. We really, really appreciate that support. It does keep us going. And when you boost, a portion of that goes to editor Drew, goes to the network, goes to myself, it goes to some developers. It all goes into the kitty for the network, too, which helps finance production, hosting, and the host and all of that. So it's a fantastic way to support and get your message read on the show.
Ask not what your podcast can boost for you, but what you can boost for your podcast.
And we don't have a ton of boosts this week because we only recorded 5 days ago. So if you don't hear your boost read, that's because there's only been a short period of days in between recording sessions, but we will catch you in the next one. Our baller this week is Double Duplex with 95,000 sats. Coming in using fountain.fm, he says, I'm sending you guys some value for the hard work recently. It sounds like the recording schedule's been a bit wild. I'm grateful the show hasn't missed a beat. Thank you, Double Duplex. Yeah, it has been a little crazy. He says, you guys have been so focused on regulations that force developers to register. But did you catch that Canada is doing the same for podcasters? Did you hear about this, Mike?
Podcasters?
Yeah, I don't actually really know what to believe on all of this.
To register for what?
With the government.
What?
Yeah, this is, but I think it's more focused at larger operations, like people that earn $10 million or more annually. They have to register with the Canadian government by November 28th.
Is it like a tax thing?
Nope. It's they just want to make sure that Canadian broadcasting is inclusive, that it features enough Indigenous Canadian content, and that minority voices are featured.
But how is that your problem if you want to start a podcast? They're going to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, there's too many white chicks or white guys. You can't do it."
Here's what they say on the I think it's like the CRTC. Here's what they say on their website. Quote, "We are developing a modern broadcasting framework that can adapt to changing circumstances. To do that, we need broad engagement and robust public records. We appreciate the significant participation during this first phase and look forward to hearing a diversity of perspectives at our contributions proceeding in November. So social media services must register, but individual users don't unless they make more than $10 million. Any online service that offers podcasts must register. But if you're a podcaster that doesn't make $10 million, it doesn't sound like you will have to, but it's not clear at this point. They have a whole list of services that have to register.
Is this like a wise use of the Canadian government's money? I mean, what do you care if some dudes want to make a podcast and more power if other people want to do it too? Like, there's all kinds of. Isn't like one of the richest podcasts that it's by that woman, I forgot her name. It's got that weird name, Daddy or something, but they're actually both women.
Yes. Something
like
they
make like tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah, well, look at Rogan, right? Like Rogan made like $300 million on his Spotify deal.
So I mean, maybe the Canadian government should boost into some podcasts so it's much cheaper and better use of money. Yeah, I'll feature Ubisoft Montreal on Game Radio every week, and we can get some of their developers on Coder. Dude, deal made.
I'm
on fire this week, Chris.
It's easy.
I really am.
No red tape needed. Altair the Blue comes in with 45,000 sats.
Make it so.
Using Fountain. He says, no message, though, but I do have a silly limerick from GPT.
No.
In Podcasting 2.0, there is value for value. With crypto, it's quite a rave. Listeners pay with delight for content that is just right, and podcasters all cheer and wave.
That's actually not bad. It sounds like something if you're like locked in a wicker cage and there's like a little, like Rumpelstiltskin looking dude. He's like, I will let you out if you can solve my limerick, my friend. And then you or Sam Bankman-Fried. Yeah. I mean, whatever. Right?
I don't like calling Bitcoin crypto. I don't like it's a digital asset. You see, Bitcoin's a digital asset. It's not crypto. It's a digital asset.
Are you going to go visit him in the Bronx?
I would like to give him a piece of my mind, to tell you what.
Woo. Oh, prison's going to be tough for him.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Apparently he won't eat. He only eats peanut butter and bread because
he's a vegan.
Yeah. So, tech hipsters that are more hipster than me. Prison, not the place for your weird diets.
Yeah. No. Prison food doesn't have a great rep as it is. I don't think you get to be picky. Yeah. John A comes in with 25,000 sats. Just trying to help with the boost goal. Thank you, John A. We did need it this week because it was a shorter production. And Mick Zip also came in with 20,000 sats, but no message there coming in with Cast-O-Matic. But thank you, Mick Zip. We appreciate the support. And then the gig came in with a little Rolodex. Just says appreciate you guys. Thanks, the gig. Thank you, everybody who did boost in. Like I said, it was a shorter run week. So we had 6 boosters, and we stacked 188,222 sats, which is not bad for a short run. Thank you, everybody who supports this production. Don't forget, if you want to check out a new podcast app, we do have the Office Hours feeds, which is a full-fledged app that has all kinds of cool features. And we have the new Jupiter Station live feed, where you can listen to the live stream in your podcast app without having to switch apps. There's some of the other advantages, of course. When you get a new podcast app, you can boost in too. If you want to keep your app, just get Albie at getalby.com and then boost us from the index. We got links in the notes. And of course, thank you to our members and everybody who listens to the show and shares it. That's why we call it a value for value production. If you get some value from it, you send some value back, and it keeps us going. Mr. Dominic, is there anywhere you want to send the good people this week? Any wise words?
Yeah, go to at Dumanuka on Weapon X and check out alice.dev. I will finally have this new version launched.
Oh, that's exciting.
Should be by Halloween, unless something crazy. It's you know what? There's always you think you're there, and then it's like, oh, actually, wait.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of that.
So I said Halloween. It's probably Christmas. We'll see.
Well, I'll plug the Matrix. Of course, this show's chat room is coder.show/matrix. The chat room goes all week. Give your feedback in there, and you can join us for a live show because we do notify that room. And there's a whole bunch of other shows over at jupiterbroadcasting.com you can check out. Links to what we talked about today are at coder.show/538. You'll find our contact form there as well as our RSS feed so you can get it when we release. And last but not least, you're welcome to join us live on Mondays. Nope, Tuesdays. That's right, Tuesdays now. At noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern over at jblive.tv. Couldn't be easier. Thanks so much for joining us. See you right back here next week. Thank you, Drew. Appreciate you.
Dankeschön.
So there we go. So now I'll give everybody a few moments, and then we got to title this thing. You know?
15 seconds.
There are 4 lights.
Oh, thank you, Picard.
Classic.
All I have to say to you is don't go to Khazad-dûm. My man from Babylon 5, baby, still going to... Oh, poor Londo, by the way. Poor Londo. Gotta love him. He steps up, which goes about as well as you would think.
I've started watching For All Mankind, and I'm on season 2.
Ooh, how is that?
I'm liking it. It's a kind of intense show at times, but it's, it's just such a neat concept, and it feels very grounded in reality. And I also discovered that Michael and I think it's Michelle, I can't remember her name, but the Coda team that does technical consultation for Star Trek is also doing technical consultation for All Mankind. And I noticed that it's very technically accurate era, so it starts in the 60s and then kind of moves into the 70s, and then like season 2 is kind of like the 80s, and I suspect season 3 is going to be the 90s as you go through like a space program where the Russians landed on the moon first. And when the Russians land on the moon first, our reaction is to double down on the space program. And so we end up building a moon base, and we end up really going all in on the space program.
See, this is why I'm telling you guys, you need a rival.
Yeah,
you really do, right? USSR fell, and we're like, okay, we're done
good.
doing anything.
Yeah. We can park the shuttle.
Like Elon's rival is whatever demon possesses him at night.
Whatever it is that
Bezos, Blue Origin.
Yeah, Origin.
But it's not even close, though, right?
Just Starlink's so far ahead now; it's crazy.
Also, I feel like Bezos doesn't care. He's like hanging out with his, hot girlfriend on a boat
and sending celebrities up for selfies.
Yeah, he's like,
what do you? Your cheese is going to get moved. Back in my day, you had to Voltron up, and you never forget your first. I think are my favorite.
Well, I do like a good Voltron reference. I gotta go. You never forget your first. I mean, come on.
And your cheese is going to get moved. Back in my day, you had to Voltron up is long. That's my only criticism. I submitted it, but
I think you never forget your first. We're never gonna be able to use that again.
Okay.
I guess it's like a first job. Yeah.
All right. Spicy.
Are you? Wait a minute.
Huh? What is it?
Are you good normal time next week?
Should be, I think. Yeah.
Because it's oh, we do Tuesdays now, not Monday. Okay,
right.
Never mind. Because Columbus Day is what I was thinking.
At some point, I am gonna need to do some recording because I'm gonna be gone the first week in November. And then we should do our holiday coderly at some point too. But
I am also gone the first week in November. So remember last month when I said I had a trip, I forgot which month I was traveling.
Okay, well maybe that works out for the best.
So maybe we say
we could probably plan when it gets a little closer, but
yeah. I mean, the only thing is,
yeah,
we'd maybe have to do it on a Monday because I got to take the kids somewhere to do it. Double would be hard.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. We can figure that out then. Maybe we lock that down next episode.
Sure, we got time.
Yeah, we do.
All right, chat room. I hope you all. Too late, too long, but what I was going to suggest. Reflections on trusting antitrust. Don't worry, Wes. That's going to be...
No
we have a
kidding,
month.
right?
You'll get it in, you'll get it in next week. That's just going to keep
And the week
happening.
after. And the week
Yeah.
after. God.
That's all right. Well, how about some closure to the episode? Take it easy, guys.
All right, Mr.
Bye,
Dominic.
Chris.
Have a good week.
Yeah, bye, Chris.
Bye, Z's. Okay, chat room. Thank you very much for coming. We're going to have a new office hours out in no time. So if you're an office hours subscriber, keep your eyes up for that. It'll be coming up soon. And then later in the week, you got a self-hosted coming. And then, of course, Linux Unplugged live on Sunday. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. It's always nice to have you here. Hope you come back next time.
Look out now, boys. Are you ready to do the rigmarole? Yeah, man. Well, go on where I told you. Do like I told you. Because everything is home cooked. Look out now. Here we go. Watch it. 1, 2, 3, 4.